Well, I knew things were going to get crazy post a Liberal minority win in an election. I knew things were going to get crazy. I just didn't know how crazy they were going to get. I warned people on the internet, if Liberals are going to win, it's going to be a very rough patch at the very least of this country, and the uncertainty or how delicate the unity of our country really is. And people take that for granted, especially Liberal voters. They think Donald Trump was the big threat. Well, they're finding out real quick that the real threat was the one they voted for. And they're finding out right now. And they're turning around saying, instead of blaming Carney, they're going to start blaming Danielle Smith, as they always do, as they have done since the beginning. Danielle Smith, we thought it was getting crazy, didn't we? We immediately, after the Liberal win, she turns around and says, we're dropping the barrier of getting a citizen initiative going, and we're going to make it more easily accessible to get this thing going and to initiate a referendum on if we're going to stay with Canada. So that was the big news. Well, guess what? It's getting worse. We saw what happened with Doug Ford going at Pierre Poilievre. And then we saw Tim Houston do the same thing. And we find out these jabronis who aren't really conservative, who aren't really with the cause, are really just all about themselves and how they can improve their careers. Knives came out for Poilievre really quick after the election. Even before the election, knives were out. Specifically from Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, and then Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia. You can't trust these guys. Liberals in blue cloaks, that's who they are. And they expose themselves real quick. And we made sure to do a whole video on it this week. Well, Danielle Smith was speaking some truth. She took some time to drop some gospel on us of what's really going on with Ontario and the frustration she's feeling that Ottawa will always and forever put Ontario's needs over Alberta's. And this is what she had to say about Ontario's industry. But first, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel, helps us grow, especially in this time where things are going to get clamped down on. Censorship is on its way in. Liking and sharing really helps us continue to expand our voice to help us have more of an impact, so it gets harder for the powers that be to shut us down. Now here's the video.
Western premiers who have a large canola industry in their provinces, and that is regardless of political stripe, have raised it directly with the Prime Minister. It seems like it's a bit of a phony war. We've got a 100% tax on EV vehicles from China that no one's buying in order to protect an EV industry in Ontario that doesn't exist. And in return, we are seeing punishment on pork and canola in our Western provinces, which are products people do want. So I think the Chinese have been very targeted and direct in how they're trying to split our country up. And I think we need to revisit that. We obviously are going to have to find new markets for our products, but let's at least engage in proportionate responses rather than having a knee-jerk reaction that is only going to hurt our industries further. And that has been conveyed by myself as well as other premiers directly to the Prime Minister.
We're dealing with tariffs, not just from the United States. We're also dealing with tariffs from China. 100% tariffs on our canola oil, 25% tariffs on our pork products and seafood. This is what we are currently dealing with. And she said it best. We put 100% tariffs on an EV industry that we don't have, so why are we trying to protect it? So that doesn't make sense. And why are we not actually trying to deal with the tariffs that are being placed on us from China that are actually impacting the real industries we have? We have a pork industry. We have a seafood industry. We have a canola industry. Why aren't you doing anything about that? Why are you making it about the EV industry that doesn't exist? And I love that she made that point. Mr. Doug Ford, Trudeau, and then Mark Carney have talked about this EV revolution, this green revolution, the net zero initiative, right? They talked about how we are going to be building electric cars and building the future. But Danielle Smith was completely right. Why are we putting 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs and making that the point that we're going to fight on when it doesn't exist? What are we protecting here? This is what we're protecting. Ford slowing down EV production. GM is slowing down EV production. Toyota is slowing down EV production. And then here's the list of all the other automakers that are slowing down their EV production. On top of that, the projects that are going on in our country, Stellantis, Windsor, not done. Volkswagen PowerCo in St. Thomas, not done. Honda at Alliston, not done. All these EV projects, not done. How long have they had to do this? This has been the whole talk of the campaign. They've had 10 years to figure this out, and they are still not doing it. You can't take these people seriously. This right here is the status of the EV revolution in Ontario under Doug Ford's leadership. Way to be, Doug Ford. You're kicking butt over there, aren't you? $2.7 billion in Eastern Ontario EV battery plant is still on hold after review. Guess what? More of your money disappearing, going into thin air. Umicore still doesn't know when construction of its electric vehicle battery plant near Kingston, Ontario will resume, despite releasing its promised review of the business. The green tech company broke ground on the plant in Loyals Township in October 2023 and planned for it to start production in 2026. The entire project had a price tag of up to $2.76 billion and received financial support from the federal and provincial governments to the tune of almost $1 billion. Do you know why they did that? Well, it's because it was expected to create 600 jobs for the region manufacturing components for EV batteries called active materials and precursor cathode active materials. But construction stopped less than a year later in July of 2024. Umicore decided to slow down EV sales to explain the decision, saying there has been a significant worsening of the EV market context, which impacts the entire supply chain, yet they're going to keep investing your money in this crap. Taxpayer dollars paid to these companies. What did we hear during the campaign? Honda looking to move its manufacturing south of the border. They came out and said, and citing the reciprocal tariffs that we've put on the United States. And then all of a sudden, Anita Anand shows up, talks to them, says, oh, don't worry, we're going to keep here. This is the liberal way. They don't believe in actually generating value. The only way they keep businesses here are by giving them taxpayer money. Yeah, I guess I would stay here and build something if the government was going to pay me to build it. This is how they operate. And Danielle Smith was dead on. Why are we not dealing with the canola issue? Why are we not dealing with the pork issue? Why are we not dealing with the seafood issue coming from China? Is it because Carney's best friends with China? Well, that's one thing. Well, the other is the fact that it's politically inconvenient for Mark Carney and the Liberals. They don't want to deal with it. They like China, and Ontario is the focus. They want to make it about the EV industry. We're going to protect our manufacturing jobs in the EV. Hello, we just read the list. You can see it here. The EV industry doesn't exist. What are you doing here? And because of the stupidity and because of the nonsense, we now get this. Challenging the unconstitutional net zero legislation. We need a reminder of what the net zero legislation is, or net zero goal that this liberal government is trying to put forward. They've been trying on for 10 years and haven't made a dent in it. And even if that's something you believe in, the fact you haven't made any real movement against it shows you that they don't really care about their own beliefs. Net zero, put simply, net zero means cutting carbon emissions to a small amount of residual emissions that can be absorbed and durably stored by nature and other carbon dioxide removal measures, leaving zero in the atmosphere. Kind of like, I don't know, how it is now. This boogeyman, that somehow we're all going to die and the world's going to light up on fire, is what's going to happen. We can have that discussion. We can talk the science, whatever. That's not the point of this. The point is, if that's the ethos you're going off of, if that is your belief system you're going off of, that we need to get to net zero. Sure, we might not be net zero, but we're dang close to having one of the nations that have one of the lowest emissions in the world. All because of the trees that we have here, that we take very good care of, if the federal government would like to do that. And Danielle Smith taking Ottawa to court over it. Good for her. The ineffective federal net zero electricity regulations will not reduce emissions or benefit Albertans, but will increase costs and lead to supply shortages. The risk of power outages during a hot summer or the depths of harsh winter cold snaps are not unrealistic outcomes if these regulations are implemented. According to the Alberta Electric System Operators Analysis, the regulations in question would make Alberta's electricity system more than 100 times less reliable than the province's supply adequacy standard. Albertans expect their electricity to remain affordable and reliable, but implementation of these regulations could increase costs by a staggering 35%. Canada's constitution is clear. Provinces have exclusive jurisdiction over the development, conservation, and management of sites and facilities in the province for the generation and production of electrical energy. That is why Alberta's government is referring to constitutionality of the federal government's recent net zero electricity regulations to the Court of Appeal of Alberta. And they are going to lose by the letter of the law. This is Mark Carney's world. This is what he's been talking. Remember that? 13 economies into one, because he wants full control. He wants to stamp all over the provincial rights of what they have right to the resources in their province, and say, well, it's for the good of Canada. Give it up. Get over it. And the fact for this net zero regulations, they're going to essentially put the power grid at risk, either freezing people out or overheating people in the summer, and essentially killing people in the process. That is what this policy does. It's going to lead to the death of people. And Danielle Smith in Alberta are spot on to fight it. Take these fools to court and let them know that this is not appropriate, it's not going to work, and no way and no how is it going to be allowed. Say what you want about climate change. You can believe in it, you cannot believe it. Who cares? Right now it comes down to the argument. Does the net zero legislation actually leading to a drop in emissions? Hasn't. Is it going to bankrupt people? Is it going to freeze people to death? Yes, it will. These people are activists. Activists have seized control of our political institutions in this country, and they're going to do whatever they so please. That's why shows like this exist. It has come to my attention, my friends, that the people have shows like ours, and the machine has stations like CBC, CTV, and Global. It's us versus them at this point, and I ain't going nowhere. And I can't wait to see Danielle Smith take Ottawa to court and this whole thing get blown up and not be allowed in Alberta. Problem is, Alberta actually is a premier that's willing to fight for them. This stuff's going to happen in Ontario. It's going to happen in Nova Scotia. It's going to happen in all the provinces, aside from Saskatchewan, Alberta, and that's about it. Because everyone is so soft, and their spines are absolutely brittle. Because my friends, don't ever forget the audio that was released during the campaign of what the motivation really is behind this net zero plan and the green economy with Mark Carney.
We're going to manage to net zero by 2050. Actually, we're going to have specific targets by 2025 and 2030, so you can measure the short term. They don't say this quite as loudly, but what they're also saying and thinking, and we're going to make a lot of money off of this because actually this is the way the world's headed. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when we get there, but to be carbon competitive is going to be value creating.
Or it's going to make us a lot of money. That's really the only goal about this, is it's pushing industry to have to use the Carney family of companies, a la Brookfield, and all the companies that they oversee and have stock in, or they own. This is how it's going. This is what's going to get. And that's why we are going to be pushing very hard on this minority government, this brittle, very brittle minority government, to make sure it comes down as soon as possible. We don't want it to come down too soon. We want to give people enough time to see Mark Carney for who he really is. If that's 6 months, 8 months, so be it. But it will come down, and he will be exposed for the fraud he is, because this is what you're getting. Premier Mo of Saskatchewan says he's Canadian, but wouldn't stop vote on Saskatchewan separating from Canada. Residents are allowed to trigger provincial legislation for a plebiscite on the issue, Mr. Mo told reporters Thursday. Why would you condemn Saskatchewan people that might have an opinion? I'm not about condemning people, he said. We very much believe that there's a path forward to work with the new Prime Minister or ensuring that Saskatchewan can have a growing, vibrant economy within a strong and united Canada. But this is where we are, folks. I warned you. I told you this is what was going to happen. Carney gets in. Alberta's going to start talking referendum. Quebec's already talking referendum. Saskatchewan's also talking referendum. Carney gets in. Canada goes away the way we know it. I'll give you a little bit of hopium. I don't think we'll actually get there. If it gets resolved in the next 6 to 8 months, we'll be okay. If it goes longer than that, well, that's anyone's guess at that point. But this is what you get voting Liberal for the 4th time in a row. A unity crisis like we've never seen before. 3 provinces talking referendum. 3 provinces talking about separation. 3 provinces saying we want to go our own way. That's what you get in Mark Carney's Canada, folks. That's what these Liberals gave you. Oh, but Mr. Trump, he's so scary. He's so scary. Elbows up. He's so scary. I need to vote Liberal because Mark Carney's going to fight Trump. Wham, wham, wham. And we find out that they're really close because they frequent the same circles. But here we are. These were the polls the day before the election. 18 to 34-year-olds, overwhelmingly conservative. 35-54, overwhelmingly conservative. 55 plus, overwhelmingly liberal. And they're the ones who really decided the election. And this was the meme that's been going around, which I think sums us all up perfectly.
I think who I voted for would be the best to take care of Trump. Because Trump is, I'm sorry to say, an ass. And he shouldn't even be president of the United States. But because he is, we need a strong person so that we could stand strong.
That's spot on, wasn't it? That's what we're getting. I know people are offended. Josh, it wasn't all boomers. You're right. There's 34% of you, likely around that did vote for conservative, and thank you for doing so. But there's an age group who overwhelmingly voted Liberal because of Donald Trump, scary. So they decided to sell out our country in the process and break it apart for what it is. And last thing, I wanted to put this out to the homies. I put this out last night. Mark Carney announced that they're expanding the Canadian Delta Care plan. Starting today, Canadians aged 55 to 64 can apply. In the coming weeks, applications will open to Canadians aged 18 to 54. More money is coming down the pipe, folks. This is what I'm doing. I'm actually getting out of the Canadian dollar altogether so I don't lose whatever I have left. I only keep the Canadian dollar in my operating expenses, paying my bills, paying my mortgage, this, that, the other. I don't save in Canadian dollars anymore. I don't invest in the Canadian economy anymore, except for a handful of real estate projects, because our dollar is about to get seriously devalued. It's not financial advice. It's just something I'm doing and something I'm seeing. You do what's best for you. But anyways, have yourselves a good one. I'm out.